Gareth Story Planet.
Hello and welcome to Gareth Story Planet. I've got a bit of a dilemma today. I'm locked in a bookshop. It's Rogan's Books in Bedford, so it's an amazing bookshop. But what am I going to do? I can't get out. Let's go and have a look to see if I'm here alone or not. So, I'm not alone. I found David.
Hi!
David Litchfield, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for coming all this way to Bedford.
It's amazing. To get locked in a bookshop is kind of like heaven.
And what a bookshop. It's such a cool bookshop.
It is. To be honest, I'm a little bit sad that it's closing because I think it's got a really good place in children's hearts in Bedford.
Oh, it totally has. It's got a place in my heart in Bedford. This bookshop kind of started at the same time that The Bear and the Piano came out, and Rachel was a great supporter of that book and all my other books. And so yeah, it's very sad that it's closing. But Rogan's book will take another form, I'm sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you mentioned something extraordinary there, The Bear and the Piano.
I did. What
a phenomenal piece of, I kind of don't want to call it a children's book, because I think it's so much more than that. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it is very much a children's book, but it does kind of touch on things that maybe not just children feel and experience. You know, a lot of the kind of emotions in that book were taken from my life and sort of implanted into this bear.
So you are morphing into the bear?
I am.
A bear of a man.
I am a bear of a man, kind of physically and emotionally at the moment. So yeah, no, I'm very proud of that book, and it will always have a special place in my heart because it was my first ever book. I never made a book before I made The Bear and the Piano.
Wow.
And it's just amazing that it's kind of gone...
It has gone full circle. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, but I want to start at the very, very beginning. So,
sure.
Tiny little David.
Wow, okay.
And I read something about T-shirts. How was that the thing that started you? Comic books? How did you get into it?
So comic books was a big deal for me growing up, and I have an older brother and sister.
Okay.
And they're a lot older than me. My brother is 7 years older. My sister is 6 years older.
Cool.
So I was kind of like an annoying inconvenience for them for most of my childhood. But the one thing I found that if I drew them comics, if I made them comics or drew them pictures at all, but mainly comics like Star Wars comics, or I made comics about my friends and stuff and about them.
Oh, wow.
They'd kind of be nice to me, and they'd leave me alone a little bit, and they'd kind of talk to me a bit more. And I mainly started my illustration career so that my brother and sister wouldn't bully me anymore.
I love it. I mean, to be honest, that's a story in itself, isn't it? Do the things that people like.
Yeah, there might be a book in there actually.
Can I be the agent for this? Can I take the 10%?
Let's do it, man. Let's go for it. But it kind of also showed me that, because I've always loved drawing for as long as I can remember. But that kind of showed me, like, when you draw for other people, you can affect them and affect their moods and affect their outlook on life, I guess.
Okay,
and stop them from stealing your toys and pushing you down the stairs and stuff.
I mean, that's quite a philosophy.
Sorry,
I
Colin.
can't say the word. Philosophizing what you're doing there.
Sure. Yeah.
At an early age, you kind of cottoned on.
Well, it's more a survival technique at that age, I think. No, they were they were very sweet to me, and I love my brother and sister. But I do remember like drawing them pictures and having conversations with them about it and stuff. So yeah.
And that went on to T-shirts.
Yes. Well, one of my first things that I did kind of professionally, I guess. So when I was about, how old was I? Well, I wasn't a child. I was like 16, 17. I started drawing T-shirts or drawing designs that then went onto T-shirts. And there was something about, like, again, just seeing my designs on something that wasn't just my sketchbook. It was just, I don't know, it's just there's a weird phenomenon. Like, I did some work for a band called Rue Royale, again, sort of early on in what became an illustration career. And they really liked it. Like, they came to Bedford, my hometown. Okay. And they came here and they did a gig, and I drew them a poster for that one gig. And they were like, hey, we really like your poster. I'm going to take it on this tour. We're going around America and we're going around Europe. Wow. And they were sending me pictures of, like, my poster, like, in time, not in the big billboards in Times Square, but in a bar in Times Square.
Times Square,
and
phenomenal. So you were international at a very early age.
Yeah, well, there was just something about seeing my artwork, and it made me really kind of spurred me on to sort of, maybe I could do something with my artwork. So,
yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, what sort of age were you at this point, by the way?
Oh, this is a long period, and a long time ago. So I remember my first commission was around the age of about 15, and it was for, again, another Bedford business called Comics Unlimited, where I designed posters and leaflets and stuff for them. And then Royale was a bit later, sort of mid to late 20s.
Okay,
so there was a big gestation period.
So what I was getting at is you were kind of like an adult, you were a professional person at that point.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of.
I was because before I was an illustrator, I became an art teacher.
I bet you were funky.
Bedford, I'm very linked to Bedford, but Bedford College.
Okay.
I was the funky one. I was
Yeah.
I was the fond.
Feet on the table.
Yeah, totally.
I love it.
So yeah, while I was doing that, and I love teaching, and I still do love teaching. Like I do go occasionally do workshops and stuff.
Amazing.
But it was never. I knew that drawing was the thing that was my calling, and then I started to get a bit old, I guess, and then I thought I better kind of focus on this and go for it.
So how did that happen? Because your first book was The Bear and the Piano, which you were author and illustrator for.
Yes.
I mean, not everybody's kind of got the gumption and the oomph to do that.
No.
So
well, I didn't. Thank you. I didn't think I did either. Like I always set out to be an illustrator, because drawing. Like I said, drawing was and still is my most favourite thing to do. And then I joined a great illustration agency called the Bright Agency. Yep. And
they all watch, by the way.
Hello, Bright Agency. And I do have so much to thank the Bright Agency for, because they've just been amazing, and they got me my first ever meeting with any kind of publishing person at all.
Wow.
Like I had no links to publishing, no links to anything in that world. And the Bright Agency very much opened this door. And my first meeting was with Katie Cotton, who is the editor at Francis Lincoln Children's Books.
Oh, yes, yes.
And I just came armed with these illustrations, kind of thinking, well, it'd be great if I could illustrate another author's books, but I'm going to tell them the silly stories I had kind of floating around my head. So I told them an idea for Grandad Secret Giants.
Yes.
And then The Bear and the Piano, which were basically, I literally had a bunch of sketches for both books, and I kind of acted it out to Katie Cotton, especially The Bear and the Piano. I was like, oh, no, there's this bear and he plays the piano and
you're a performance artist, author, everything. Wow.
Well, because I didn't have anything else to show. I didn't have a manuscript or anything. It was just literally a few notes and some really sketchy sketches.
Do you think this is the way forward, actually? To not write the manuscript is go in and perform something?
No.
I'm from a theatre background. I would love to do that.
Maybe it is. Possibly. I mean, I'm not from a theatre background, so it must have looked horrifying to her. But it kind of worked, because she was like, yes, Bear and the Piano sounds great. We'd like to make that the first book. So I sometimes feel I was a bit jammy, because that was literally my first meeting with anyone. Which, obviously is not the way it goes for a lot of people. But there must have just been some little spark in some of those sketches that Katie really saw. And Katie Cotton, I owe so much to, because that was the point where I thought, oh, I'm going to make an actual book that's going to be in the shops, and people are going to see it. I mean, I kind of assumed it would only be, my mum and a few of my friends who might buy it, but...
It's gone around the world, though. It's been translated, hasn't it?
It's bonkers, really. It's gone around the world. It's, boys and girls are reading it in China and Japan and America and all over the place. And yeah, lots of exciting things are happening because of that book. And it all just started with some sketches. So it's
all
it's
just
crazy,
started
really.
with some sketches,
yeah.
and you acting out a story.
Yeah.
Did was the writing process easy once you went, oh my gosh, I've got to actually write this now?
It kind of was, but again, I sort of owe a lot of that to Katie Cotton, because I wrote it. I drew the pictures first. I sketched the whole story out first.
So you actually knew the story. You knew it.
Kind of. I had the kind of. But and then I left it to the very last to kind of actually write the words to the story. But Katie Cotton is she is a writer as well.
There you
She
go.
writes books, so she gave me so much advice, and kind of I'd send her stuff, and she'd be brutally honest about that's not working, or take that bit out, or rethink that bit. So yeah, and it still is the toughest part for me is the writing of the actual work. I mean, I kind of plan the story out, like I say, in my sketchbook, and then I kind of sketch it all up and work it all up into kind of a bit more kind of legible artwork.
So you've got book 2, which is already out, Bear and the Piano, and what's the title? I forgot.
The Bear, the Piano, the Dog, and the Fiddle.
That's it. I knew there was a fiddle in there. I went,
Yeah.
And then you've got a third one coming out.
Yeah, so I'm just finishing off now. It's called the Bear, the Piano, and Little Bears Concert, and it's out this September, and I'm super happy with how it's going. It's the final one. I'm only going to do it as like a trilogy.
That back to your sci-fi day, maybe?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is the Return of the Jedi of the Bear trilogy. Hello.
Amazing. We are generally in the bookshop, and people are walking by wondering what we are doing.
People of Bedford.
People of Bedford. Hello, everybody.
Fellow Bedfordians.
Thanks for watching. No, I mean, it is phenomenal, the success of the book, but the quality of those books is especially.
Oh, thank you. Well,
you're very talented.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I remember having this. I remember thinking this. Like, have we got?
What, you're thinking I'm very talented?
No, I remember thinking that a lot. Have we got the book anywhere? No, never mind. Well, there's a page in the book where it's like and it was the first book page I drew actually, where it's like the big theatre scene where he's like in this big vast theatre and there's thousands of people watching him, and I thought that's going to be a tricky drawing to do.
Yes.
But I chose it as the first one to draw because I thought I'm just going to get this done, get this out of the way, and it took me like 2.5 weeks or something. Cool. But it's one of those drawings that I kind of wanted to do it so that the rest of the book would have to live up to that drawing, which might sound a bit crazy really, but I started that one, and then so it was really a way of pushing kind of my artwork. But I also just felt this kind of overriding kind of responsibility that I'd been given this opportunity, that I'd kind of been I'd had a proper job, I'd had a 9-to-5 job, a well-paying job, and I jacked it all in kind of. And I, still have a young family, and we were saving for a house. So it was like the worst time to do that. I just thought I've really got to make a success of this book. I've really got to make this book or work as hard on this book as I possibly can. Try and make it as successful as it could do, and look as awesome as it could do. And I really just went for it, really. And
nice.
Like. If I hadn't been in that situation, that book probably wouldn't have looked that good, because I don't think I would. And now it's annoying because all the other books have to kind of live up to that book as well.
Definitely. Well, actually,
but I'm really pleased I did, because I'm so proud of it, and I
love it. And to be honest, I said this to you earlier. I think your books are one of those that adults love as much, if not even more, than the children, because they are beautiful.
Well, I mean, I do write them first and foremost for children. I do try and think, okay, it's a child gonna like this. But it's quite good when ideas like a bear playing the piano, you can't really lose then, because I think, there's something so kind of innocent and childlike about just that image anyway, and just that concept. So you can kind of, I don't want to say disguise, because that sounds a bit patronising, but you can kind of get messages or kind of narratives that you want to kind of get in there, kind of, because, essentially it's about a bear playing the piano, but it's also about kind of, kind of feeling supported with your family, and kind of the kind of the pressures of leaving home, and following your dreams, and all these kind of maybe quite kind of weighty storylines.
But he comes back. It's lovely.
Yeah, exactly. Spoiler.
Sorry, I shouldn't do that. Yeah.
I'm joking.
What is your process though? That's what I really would. Are you a digital person? Are you arty? Do you get a bit of newspaper and cut it up? What do you do?
I do all sorts of things, whatever feels right, really. And I mean, a big chunk of the reason why it takes me so long to make books and why publishers get annoyed with me, it's because a big chunk of my day is taken up with like experimenting and just seeing what works and what looks good and what kind of So I do a lot of watercolor washes to begin with. And I try and do like a fresh batch for each book, so each book has a kind of distinctive look.
Nice. Whatever's on offer at Tesco's,
No, absolutely. I use any paint. Like some of the paints I've got, I'm kind of getting to the end of them now, but they're like paints that I definitely bought from like W.H. Smith's like 10 years ago or something.
Love it.
But they work perfectly. And in fact, the W.H. Smith's, this is bad because it's like advertising, but the W.H. Smith's watercolor pencils are by far the best pencils that I've used for watercolour process.
Other brands are available.
Yes, perfectly good brands are available. But, well, WS Smiths are the cheapest probably. Anyway, yeah, so I usually start with that, just not really thinking about the story, not really thinking about, actually having a vague idea what the story is and what kind of setting's going to be. And I just make like textures and kind of, use watercolours and acrylics and pencil crayons, like I said, and all kinds of stuff that create kind of nice textures. But some might get used, some might not, or some might just go in my box of textures, which is a weird thing to have, but I do. And then I'll scan those in and kind of overlay them on Photoshop and kind of see what is nice and stuff. And then, most of the kind of characters and things, they usually start with a very scruffy hand-drawn version, and then I'll scan that in and use Photoshop to kind of, make it look nice, and maybe even overlay some of the text on that. So it's kind of a 50-50 thing, really, sort of real-world kind of materials with digital stuff kind of helping out, Photoshop wizardry.
What I sometimes find difficult with, because I'm a writer, I'm trying anyway, is...
Very good.
Bless you. So I write my texts and sometimes I put them away for quite a long period of time.
Sure.
You can't really do that with artwork, can you? Because you've got a kind of... You've got deadlines, obviously, number one, but you're working on something, and if you've done it, by hand, not digitally, it's hard to kind of go back and fully change it, isn't it?
Well,
unless you start from scratch.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, that's the beauty of sketchbooks, is that my sketchbooks are full of absolute, like, really bad drawings, like such bad artwork. But then for every like 10 that are bad, there's going to be like 2 or 3 that are really good and really work and stuff. And that's kind of the point of sketchbooks, really. So I do sort of revisit the same drawing over and over again in that sense, where I'll kind of try and draw it and then I'll rip it out or turn it over and draw it again. But no, I mean, the other great thing about sketchbooks and kind of working the way I do, where it's like I'll plan a story out, is like I have got stories in my sketchbooks and storyboards in my sketchbooks for books that I haven't made yet, and like I can look back on that in 5 or 10 years and think, okay, that is a good idea. Maybe I can make that now, or I don't know. Well, that's my hope anyway. I'm sort of like kind of providing for future David if he kind of hits kind of writer's block.
So sketchbook is kind of my bottom drawer.
I guess so. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. But once I'm in the throes of kind of making a book, I mean, the artwork does take me a long time. So yeah, I really do kind of I live it, basically. I kind of,
I know it. So I cannot switch off when I've got an idea and I'm doing it. And now I've got 2 small children, and it is really hard when your mind is not shutting off from doing something, and you've got to go to the toilet. You've got to take them to the toilet, and wipe bottoms and things like that. It's like it's bonkers. Yeah. I think about it when I wake up in the morning. I think about it when I go to bed. Yeah. But I'm only the writer. You are doubly creative. You must be like
I also have 2 small children. I have a very understanding wife who, sometimes, like today, for example, I got into my studio at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
My studio used to be in my attic in my house, which was not too bad, because like getting up at 6, I've got to draw something. It was literally like seconds away. Whereas now I have I cycle into town, and there's a whole process of getting there, which is great. So yeah, I was there at 6 o'clock, and what is it now? It's like 5 o'clock now. So no, it's like 6 o'clock now. So that's like 12 hours basically
of drawing.
Ish. And my wife is very understanding. She knows that that's just part of the process, and that's part of what kind of happens. And it's tough though, juggling it with family life. As you said, it's and sometimes I get frustrated that my infant son doesn't understand that I have to sit down and draw something. He's like, no, I want you to watch Ryan's Mystery Playdate and stuff.
We watch all of those over and over again. Now, I tend to write in rhyme, so when I'm there typing away and that's on in the background, my mind goes.
Oh, really?
I tend to write what they've said, and I went, that clearly doesn't rhyme, but you've written something about squashy balls.
There's nothing...
Bye-bye.